This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated with another true crime of insurance fraud video. This one number 73, entitled Nobody's Been Hurt. Dr. Scrooge was 85 years old. He lived with his daughter and son-in-law in a remodeled tract home outside of Portland, Oregon. The doctor's daughter had insisted that he move into her house even though he owned one of his own after his last heart attack. She was afraid that her father, now a widower, would succumb to his passion for chocolate fudge ice cream. Only 2 months before he moved to his daughter's house, Dr. Scrooge managed to consume a full gallon of chocolate fudge ice cream at a single sitting. Shortly after that, as any healthy person under the same circumstances would, Dr. Scrooge felt serious pain in his chest. He dialed 911, explained his symptoms, and was immediately rushed to a cardiac care unit at a hospital in Portland. Although the cardiologists could find no evidence of a heart attack, they performed $15,000 worth of tests which suggested that some of Dr. Scrooge's arteries had been reduced in size by a buildup of plaque. The cardiologist recommended an installation of arterial stents and a second bypass operation to avoid further incidents. Of course, Dr. Scrooge never told his physicians that he had consumed a gallon of ice cream immediately before his angina attack. He did admit to his daughter the consumption of the ice cream and his personal diagnosis that his symptoms were more indigestion than a cardiac problem. He admitted that shortly after being admitted to the hospital, he passed enough gas to light the small city of Vancouver, Washington, across the river from Portland. He also admitted that shortly after he passed gas, the angina pains disappeared. After receiving a second and third opinion from cardiac specialists, Dr. Scrooge decided not to have the bypass and accepted the installation of 2 stents. He agreed to move in with his daughter and abide by her dietary controls. There was no question that Dr. Scrooge had a heart condition. It was, however, a condition that could be controlled by medication. After moving in with his doctor, Dr. Scrooge signed an agreement with a health maintenance organization who promised him no premium and better services than Medicare. Always on a lookout for a bargain, Dr. Scrooge was pleased with the plan, even though it did not pay 100% of all his pharmacy charges. He had many drug samples in his house given to him by drug salesmen over the years. He did not expect to ever need to buy a drug. He happily filled his own prescriptions for the medication his cardiologist prescribed to keep him healthy. Dr. Scrooge's son-in-law was a detective with the Bunco-Forgery Division of the Portland Police Department. The Portland Police provided its officers with an excellent preferred provider health plan. They could use any doctor they desired and were only required to pay $5 for every prescription drug they purchased, regardless of the true cost of the drug. Dr. Scrooge's HMO required a payment of up to $25 per prescription, depending on the cost of the drug. Since he lived with him, Dr. Scrooge, although he did not actively practice, still maintained his medical license. He would, at the request of his daughter, write prescriptions for antibiotics and other benign drugs requested for the assistance of the family. Occasionally, he would even go to the drugstore and pick up the drugs for the family as long as his daughter gave him a $5 bill for the pharmacist. Dr. Scrooge's cardiologist was well read. He prescribed only the most recent and most effective heart medications. The drugs he prescribed, because they were new and no generic variations were yet on the market, were extremely expensive. Much to the shock of Dr. Scrooge, they were also so new that he had none in his supply of drug samples. The drug salesman knew he was retired and refused to provide him with any further samples. Dr. Scrooge was forced by his HMO to pay $25 for each of his heart medications. It infuriated him that he, a doctor, had to pay more than a mere policeman. He decided to take advantage of his son-in-law's $5 copayment provision and save $20 on his heart medicine. When it came time to refill his prescription, Dr. Scrooge wrote a prescription for his son-in-law for the heart medicine Dr. Scrooge needed to survive. He did not tell his son-in-law or his daughter what he was doing. He and the pharmacist had become friendly, and the drugs passed the counter without difficulty with a payment of only $5. The Portland Police Health Insurance Plan paid $250 for Dr. Scrooge's heart medicine. Dr. Scrooge began prescribing for his son-in-law all of the heart medicine, blood thinners, diuretics, blood pressure controls, etc., that were required to maintain the doctor's own health. Since he had his own private room in his daughter's house, no one noticed that the prescription bottles from which he obtained his drugs did not contain his name as the patient, but rather the name of his son-in-law. 5 months after Dr. Scrooge started his plan of saving on prescription drugs, the detective was called into his captain's office. "When was your last physical?" "About a year ago, Captain. Why do you ask?" "I'm concerned about your health, Wilson." "No reason, Captain. My health is perfect. The doctor gave me a clean bill and said that I had cholesterol levels equal to a person 10 years younger than me." "He did he? Wilson, do you use a doctor named Scrooge?" "Well, I don't really use him as my physician. He lives in my house. He's my father-in-law." "Wilson, I have a report here from your health insurance administrator telling me that Dr. Scrooge has written prescriptions for blood thinners, blood pressure mediation and medication, diuretics, and nitroglycerin in your name. These drugs are only prescribed for people with serious heart condition. Are you taking those drugs?" "Captain, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't take those drugs." "Wilson, you're an exceptional detective. I don't want to lose you. I also can't afford to have a detective on the street who has a serious heart condition. Get me answers. Also, I want you to get me a report from your physician on your last physical to prove you're fit for duty." "I will, immediately," the detective responded. That night, on his return home, Detective Wilson began an interrogation of his father-in-law. Of course, since he was an excellent detective, old Dr. Scrooge had no idea he was being interrogated. "Dad, have you been writing prescriptions for your heart medicine in my name?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because they only cost $5 on your insurance plan, and they cost $25 on mine." "Don't you remember what I do for a living? Have you no idea what you have done? You have committed fraud in my name. If insurance fraud was a crime in the state of Oregon, Dad, I'd have to arrest you. How could you do this to me? You must never do it again." "But why should I pay more than I need to for these drugs? It is wasteful. I was only trying to protect the inheritance of your children." "Dad, if you fill one more prescription in my name, I will arrest you." "This is ridiculous," Dr. Scrooge responded. "Nobody's been hurt. I shouldn't have to pay $25 for a drug when I can get it from your insurance company for $5. Dad, what you did is criminal. Not only did you commit a crime, but you committed it in my name. Never do it again. You may have lost me my job." Wilson the next day was forced to speak to his captain and inform him that his father-in-law had attempted to save money on his own insurance by making his prescriptions out in Wilson's name. He convinced the captain that although technically the old man had committed a crime, it would serve no purpose to put the old man in prison at his advanced age. It might even please the old man because in prison he would get the medicine for free. Wilson's record was noted. His next promotion was delayed by 12 months. His father-in-law refused to fill his own prescriptions and pay the extra $20. Because he did not have the medication to take, he had a real heart attack and was hospitalized for 3 weeks. Dr. Scrooge still believes that no one is hurt by insurance fraud. This video was adapted from my book, Insurance Fraud Costs Everyone, which is a supplement to my 2-volume treatise, Insurance Fraud, 2nd edition, all of which are available from Amazon.com as Kindle books or paperbacks or even hardcovers. If you found this video to be of interest and viewed it on Rumble, please click the Rumble button. And if you viewed it on YouTube, please click the like button. Thank you for your attention.